All right, so good morning, everybody. For today, we are going to continue working on the study guide for your test. That's this Thursday or Friday, depending on what class when I have you here. But we already did page one, we already did page two of the study guide. So let's flip it over to page three of our study guide, and we're going to start from there. Now, remember also, you should have your word wall ready. Your word wall is what you get to use on the test. Remember, it's kind of like your only cheat sheet that you get to use during the test as well. So here we go. Number 12. Which two? So, yes, I have to pick two answers. Inequalities below represent this graph. Well, look, the best thing for me to do is just to write it myself. I know I always work with X, and look, we can see that here. They're working with X with all of them. So there's the X. We know the number -1 is what's important. So there's the -1, and it's filled in. They filled in that circle. So we know we need an equal to. And finally, it goes to the left. And if it's going to the left, my X is going to be less than because my shading is going this way. So now let me very carefully pick it. X is less than or equal to -1. All right, there it is. There's one version of it, but they said there has to be two answers. And if you're thinking, well, yeah, nothing else looks like this. Remember, you could have the -1 on this side and the X on the other. Just remember the inequality is open to the -1. So if the alligator mouth is eating the -1, well, make sure it continues to eat it that way. And so here's where I'm going to look for. That's the other choice. -1 is greater than or equal to X. So there it is. It has to match perfectly with what we write. Now, another big part of your test is that old stuff is going to come up. And this is one of those situations on number 13. See, on number 13, they're bringing in the concept of an inequality, of an absolute value. So we have the absolute value, and we said it should always equal a positive number, and it is positive. So this is when we do our split. Anytime we have an absolute value, I'm supposed to get two answers. The first one, of course, is just 6y minus 8 is equal to 3. The other one is 6y minus 8. But here comes the only thing you have to make different. That positive 3 is now a -3. So these are the two changes we have to talk about here, or the only change we have to talk about. Now, it's just like every other problem we've done. We highlight, write down the equal sign, and here comes the work. We add the 8 to both sides. So 6y is equal to 11. We divide by 6, and just remember, if it doesn't divide nicely, that's okay. Just leave your answer as 11/6. So there's one of my answers. Then we're going to do the exact same steps over here. If you did this correctly, remember how we added 8 here? Well, look, you should still be doing the same thing. This is how we double check and make sure that we were doing the problem correctly in the first place. -3 plus 8, well, that's just 5. Remember, double check all your numbers on a calculator. And we divide by 6, and again, it doesn't divide. That's okay. We leave our answer as a fraction. And these are the two answers that we get for this problem. So yes, there are going to be throwback questions. Just because we did this in Unit 1 didn't mean we were done with it. It's going to keep coming back in all of our tests. Now, looking at number 14. Start moving it up here a little bit. It says solve it. Check your solution. Don't worry about the answers. Don't worry about that check your solution thing. Just solve it. Do what you've always done. Y is the only letter that's there. So I'm going to do everything I can to get the y by itself. I'm going to add a 2 to both sides because that's what we always do with these types of problems. So we add a 2, and yes, I'm left with -4y is equal to 7. And then the last step we take is to divide, because that's how I get rid of a number right next to it. They're multiplying. So we bring in division, the inverse there, right? Division. And then look, a positive divided by a negative is a negative. So we just throw that out in front. 7 can't be divided by 4 nicely, so then we leave it as a fraction. But this is what we're warning you about. Yes, on paper, a lot of you are doing it perfectly. And then we look at your word or your answer choice, and you're picking some random stuff. Please pick carefully. Okay. Number 15 is yet another throwback. So here comes another throwback question for us. They said the circumference of a circle is this: C equals 2 pi r. Even if you don't know what the symbols are, it doesn't matter. That's the equation. So I write it down because I need more space. And then it says where C represents the circumference, R represents the radius, and then it says solve C equals 2 pi r for the letter R. So to get the letter R by itself, all we have to do now is, if things are right next to each other, well, then we need to bring in division. Division is the only way to get rid of it. So to get R by itself, I'm going to get rid of the 2. I'm going to get rid of the pi. So we're going to divide by 2 pi for both. The 2's are gone. The pi's are gone. And then there's your R. Using basics. And remember, you don't do anything on this side. You just write it out. There's our answer. So C is equal to 2 pi equal to R. All right, so same situation coming up with number 16, where all they want me to do is they want me to solve it. All right, so here we go. Number 16 coming up. Now they said, okay, we have a distance formula. The distance formula is equal to D equals RT. There's the distance formula. But then they said they want me to get R all by itself. No worries there. Look, I write it down. D is equal to RT. They want me to get this letter by itself. Well, the pattern has told us when things are next to each other, they're multiplying, then division is the only way to get rid of things. Then I'm going to divide both sides by T. T is gone. And then look, R is all by itself. What does it say on this side? D divided by T. The way you read it is the way you write it, or the way you see it is the way you write it. Same thing. But my goal was to get R by itself, and it's officially by itself now. And then, like I said, they're going to mix in these very standard, very easy questions like this one, where it says solve the inequality. Okay, we've done that before. Put your equals, or not your equals, highlight that inequality, right? Get that line going. And then you're going to solve the way you've always solved these. I'm solving for y. Then I have to get rid of the -1. To get rid of a -1, well, then we add a 1 to both sides, leaving me with -2y less than or equal to the number 10. All right. Now we want to get rid of the -2 that's right next to the y. Well, there's only one thing to do when you're trying to get rid of a number next to a letter, and that's division. They are multiplying, so we're going to bring in division to get rid of it. But remember what we said. Look at what we divided by. We just divided by a negative. And we said when you divide by a negative, when you ask the question, do I reverse it, yes or no? Remember, you must reverse. So my answer says greater than or equal to now. And then 10 divided by -2 is -5. So this is what I am very carefully going to look for. First of all, it has to have a -5. This doesn't have a -5. This one doesn't either. Learn to just cross things out. So now looking at it carefully, we see that B is the answer because it says y is greater than or equal to that -5. All right, one more on this page where we are basically going to do the exact same thing, but there's a difference. So hopefully there you're caught up with the writing on this one. So yes, we have to reverse it, right? That's what we did right there. We reversed that symbol because of the negative. Anyways, number 18. Alice solved and graphed the inequality below incorrectly. Okay. Well, it says graph, but I don't see a graph anywhere. So maybe it's just the solving. So the best thing for me to do is just redo it myself. We are checking the work they did. So remember, don't look at what they wrote. You do the work you normally do. So first thing I would do is subtract the 4. All right, so now we're going to see if she's right. So you see, got that. So I end up with negative 3x is greater than 12. Well, let's see. That's exactly what Alice did. So everything is good so far. Then I would divide everybody by negative 3. So I divide by negative 3, which means my answer should say x. Now I divided by a negative, so I must reverse the inequality, and then 12 divided by negative 3 is negative 4. So now let's check, and if you notice, we see a mistake. Not by us. Remember, they told us Alice did something wrong. So by looking at it carefully, step 1 was fine, this step was fine, but as soon as I look at this one, Alice made a mistake. The mistake, it says, Alice's mistakes are she didn't reverse the inequality. She didn't reverse it. That's what she forgot to do. Didn't reverse the inequality. Remember, that's what these things are called right here. So that's the error. She didn't reverse the inequality after she divided by a negative. And it was a negative 3, but we do need to bring that up. You can't just say she didn't reverse it. Okay, but you got to give me specifics. She didn't reverse it after she divided by a negative 3, and that's the key word right there. Talking about the reversal and mentioning that because of the division by a negative number causes that. So make sure you're going to have to answer something similar on the test. We don't know what the issue is going to be on the one that you do, but always give detail. You can't just say, she didn't do this. Okay, but why? Give that extra detail. All right, we just have one more side to go. Again, you are looking at every question that's going to be on the test. You already saw the first half the other day with me. Now you're seeing the second half here on video at least. So let's flip it to the last page. So here are the last problems we have to talk about. Oh, and they start us off with a very simple one here. I'm just solving for x. The only way to get rid of that 2 is to divide by 2. And do I need to reverse the inequality? No, I didn't divide by a negative. But when it comes to drawing it, now that's why they're going to give you this on purpose. Don't forget, we have to fix it. We said that if we want to use our tricks that we've learned for drawing inequalities, your letter should be first, the number should be at the end, and just remember, it said the 3 was greater than x, meaning the alligator mouth was eating the 3. Well, it still needs to do that. The alligator mouth needs to continue to eat the 3 even after you fix it. And so now I'm ready. I'm going to go to the 3 and I do an open circle. Do I fill it in? No, there's no equal sign, so no fill in. And then it says I have to shade everything that goes to the left. So remember, right there, no equal, so it stays open, just like we see right there. And we have to go shade to the left. How do I know it says left? Because it's a little arrow basically telling me to go in that direction. So then we're going left. Just like that, we're done. Just make sure you don't accidentally fill that in. Be careful. All right, next one. Now, this is more practice of some of the questions we've already done. It says select all of them that are a solution to the inequality. The best way to do these, just work out the problem. We saw this one the other day. Just work it out yourself. Okay? So we're going to solve it just like every other problem. And then we're going to draw it. So let's see. First thing we would do is subtract the 3. Subtract the 3. Negative 4x is less than or equal to -1. Divide, that's how we get rid of a number next to a letter. Only thing we can do is divide by that -4. And so then it says x is, we divided by a negative. That means we have to reverse the inequality. And then -1 over -4 is +1 over 4. Now, this one's a little tougher. I get that. So here's one thing that you can do. You have a calculator. You can turn that with the calculator into a 0.25. Okay? So when I put that on my number line, yeah, there's 0. There's 1. 0.25, a quarter would be right there. And yes, they want me to fill it in, so I'm already filling it in. So there's 0.25. And then they said, go to the right side. Now, if the ones that are fractions are kind of messing you up, well, look, all I did was this. I took my calculator and I did 1 divided by 4. There's how I got 0.25. So let me do that for the rest. Half. 1 divided by 2. 0.5. Okay. 0.5. That's just a 1. That's just a -1. That should be easy. And then 1 over 3. Okay, let's see. 1 divided by 3. 0.33333. Okay, I'm just going to say 0.3. Little line on top. Back in the day, that meant repetition. So they want me to know, or they want to know, which one of these is an answer on this problem. All right. First of all, 0.5. That would be right there. So yes, that is an answer. The next one they want me to check is the number 1. Well, yeah, there's the number 1 right there. The number 1 is in the shaded region. Then that is an answer. The next one they want me to check is -1. -1 is over here. That makes no sense. That's not even in the shaded region. That should be thrown out. And then finally, the last one there, they said, let's check 0.3. Well, if this is 0.25, 0.3 would be somewhere in here in the shaded region. So then that would count as an answer as well. So just be careful. If you're dealing with fractions, you can easily, with division, turn them into decimals, and then it does get a little bit easier. All right. Then there's number 21. Now, number 21, once again, has the absolute values right there. When we have absolute values, we already said it. Look, it's equal to a positive. So if that number's positive, then we need to split. So our first one is 7x minus 6 is equal to 3. Notice how I just copied everything. Or we go 7x minus 6 because we never mess with the inside of the absolute value. But it equals, here's the only change, -3. It's the only change you have to make for that second one. And then after that, it's just like every other problem we've done. Put a line right down through the equals. And here we go with the same steps as before. How do I solve for x? I get rid of adding and subtracting first. So I get rid of a -6 with a +6. Adding and subtracting tends to be first. 7x is equal to 9. How do I get rid of a number next to a letter? Well, since they're multiplying, we use division. So we divide. And so x is equal to 9 over 7. No, that doesn't divide nicely. That's okay. Leave it alone. That's what happens at higher levels of math. And then here we go again. Solving for x. I always get rid of adding and subtracting first. So there's the opposite of subtracting 6. So we add 6. And yeah, we're going to get a different number on the right side here. We get a 3 now. And then to get rid of the 7, just like before, only division can get rid of a number next to a letter. And so x is equal to 3 over 7. Those are my two answers for that problem. We had already done one like that, so it's just another one to practice with. And that was not the real bell. This is on the video. Now, here we go. Number 22. All right, we got an absolute value again. So I see the absolute value. Absolute value means distance from zero, right? That's what this means. But that's why for a lot of these, many of the times you have to say, okay, if it's distance from zero, but look at that. That's a negative number. Distance can't be negative. And if distance can't be negative, then I don't split this. As soon as that negative shows up, since distance can't be negative, there's my answer. No solution. We don't waste our time doing work for something that has no answer. That's why we have to learn how to spot them. But again, this is from Unit 1. The Unit 2 test will use Unit 1 material too. Wait till you get to the Unit 3 test. At that point, it's going to have Unit 1, Unit 2, and Unit 3. All right, 2 more to go here. Now, number 23, solve the inequality, graph the solution. All right, same thing we did earlier. Actually, I think we already did one of these the other day, but it's good practice. Once again. Now, the first thing I notice is I have 2 ends, but they are already on the same side. I shouldn't be writing anything underneath. I need to combine these right away. So the combination of these 2 yellow ones, -7 and +8, is +1n, is greater than, but then when you look over here, you don't leave it as 6 plus 6. We could do basic math. 6 plus 6 is just 12. And would look to be like a very tough problem with combination, because that's what we do. We combine like terms. Look how easy it gets now. If I'm trying to solve for n, all I have to do is one last thing. Get rid of the 14 by doing the opposite operation, not the opposite sign. If it's a positive, aka adding, then subtraction is what we need. So then n is greater, because we're adding and subtracting. We don't even question reversals. 12 and -14 is -2. There it is. There's me solving the inequality. And then all I have to do now is just bring my numbers over here. So there's 0. -2 would be right there. We get the open circle going. And then it says n is greater. So it's pointing to the right side, which makes sense because that's where numbers get bigger when you go to the right side. So we shade everything over there. Remember, anything in the shading would be an answer. And then here comes one more last practice problem for us. Write 2 inequalities to represent this graph. All right, so first of all, I'm going to put an X. And then obviously I need to talk about the number -2. Now look at that symbol. And again, I've told you before, I want to show you with the word wall how you can do this and it can guide you. We have a picture with a closed circle going this way. So you see, there it is. Closed circle going that way. Then that's the symbol I need. Less than or equal to. But they said, give me 2 of these. All right, there's the first one. So then if they want me to write one more, well, I don't need my word wall. All I have to do is now just swap them out. See, there's my -2. There's the X. Just remember the -2 was greater. The open mouth of the inequality of the alligators eating the -2. Well, then make sure it keeps doing that. And those are the 2 ways that we would rewrite this. So again, these last few problems have all been review of what we talked about the other day together in class. This is just more examples for you to try. All right, with that said, you have officially seen every question that's on the test from what we did the other day in class to what you saw in this video. So get yourself ready by making sure that you have every homework assignment that you owe in this class by getting it done.